Good evening. Uh, I'm Nick DeLiam with JLN Associates, and this is Critical Conversations. We're real excited tonight. If you remember, many years ago, brought the we had brought the boss of the National Fallen Firefighters on the show, and the chief gave us an update on what was going on. Well, the chief retired, and now we have the new. I'm going to ask you to say your title because I think it's changed a couple times. Victor, how do you say Stagnaro
Stagnaro, yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, good job.
is the new.
I've heard it
You're the
before from
CEO, right? Huh?
Correct. Yes, that is right.
Of the National Fallen Firefighters. I've known Victor a very long time. Victor was had key roles in the Fallen Firefighters well before the time that the chief retired. We've worked on projects together, and has always been a huge supporter for the fallen firefighter families and the foundation, which is what that's all about. We do want to take a minute. Uh, New England's a pretty tight group, and Maine's a tight group, and so earlier this week we had a tremendous emotional impact to the state of Maine, particularly up into that I guess they call it mid-shore district, where we had explosion at a wood lumber operation. The explosion actually launched the 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 storage bin, and it significantly injured several people and destroyed several apparatus. Right now, the latest as of this morning is they believe everyone else is going to have a really long road to get better and get back. I've seen pictures of at least one young firefighter who has been released from the hospital because of burns on his hands. But there are people that are in nationally known or internationally known burn centers, and while they're alive and they're actually responding to their loved ones and stuff, they have a very long road, a very long road to travel. So we're just going to take a minute here and pray in whatever fashion you pray or whatever you want to do. But we just want to think about those folks up in Maine. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nick.
Interesting on a real quick sideline. The fire in Boston where all the doors were locked. One of the only good things that came out of that is a couple of the patients that were actually in the dead pile actually were breathing, so they took them and they actually regrew their skin one little piece at a time, and that's where we first got the idea that we could recreate the skin and then apply it over that person, right? And then they would heal up. Coconut Grove, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it's really crazy. So tell us about your time. Give us the layout of how. I know you've been there a while, but I don't know how long. Give us the whole wrap.
Sure. I'll give you. I'll start at the beginning. So I came up through. I started off as a volunteer firefighter, and then in 1980, 81, 1985, I got hired in Prince George's County, and in the late 90s, about 1997, Chief Ron Sarnicki, who was the executive director before me, the guy you were just talking about that was running the organization, he was the chief in Prince George's County, and I was his executive officer, his XO.
Oh, okay.
And we were walking through Firehouse Expo back in the day when it was in Baltimore, and
Oh
we
my God.
came, yeah, that's going back a little ways, and we came across a guy by the name of uh, uh, Hal Bruno. He was the yeah, and I see it in your face. Just a wonderful human being, quite a fire buff, a reporter, nationally recognized, internationally recognized, reporter, and just loved the fire service. He came up through Chicago. He had some connections with the fire service, so he was the board chair for the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. So he and Ron struck up a conversation, and he says, I want to bring the incident management process to the National Memorial. So Ron turns to me as the XO. He says, I don't want you to find somebody to do that. And I said, that seems like a really unique opportunity. I really didn't know anything about the foundation at the time, but an opportunity to come and participate in a national memorial for our fallen firefighters, I thought, I think I'm going to do it. So I volunteered and I was the first incident commander. Now, back then, it was small. It's
Mhm.
nothing like it is today. I think you were
No.
talking when we were talking offline. You were mentioning about the honor guard and the escorts and all the different elements of the memorial. Well, back then, we set up a command post, and we deployed little teams all over the place, and they were like strike teams. They were just teams that went out and took care of things, and then each year we grew it. So that's kind of how I started with the memorial. And then Ron went on to retire from the fire department and became the executive director 3 months before 9/11. And then it really transformed the whole fire service, right? It transformed our whole nation after right on the heels of 9/11. So we went up. I was part of the team that got a chance to be in New York on the onset, supporting the counseling service unit, just doing all kinds of whatever tasks needed to be done to support the families and to support the FDNY. And during that time, and you'll remember, it's that if you needed something for New York or for anything related for the Pentagon or Shanksville, the answer was yes, and then you figured out
Yeah.
whatever. So that's kind of the way we went. So I went on with my career in Prince George's County, and when I left the county in 2010 as chief operations, Ron came to me and said, "Look, we've got our line of duty death prevention programs. We've been using contractors, and I want to bring it in house." And he asked if I would be willing to run the line of duty death prevention programs. And I said, I really feel like I'm better equipped to help run a fire department. It doesn't have to be a chief. Just I just and Nick, and everybody who's been a firefighter, you I just love putting on a uniform every day and going to work. It was it's just I just did. And so Ron says, look, do this for a year. And if you still want to go back and work, I'll do work in the fire department. I'll do everything I can to help you get a job in the fire service. So, what a great deal, right? So, what a great opportunity. So I took the job, and then I'm about 3-4 months into being retired, and I'm reading in the Washington Post an incident where a uh, it had been a fatality had been called by an EMS units, and about 30 minutes later, the police were there doing their report, and the officers were like, "That guy just breathed," and sure enough, he was not passed away. So, at that moment, I felt like, you know what? That's not my problem. I don't have to write a report. I don't have to put somebody on, non-public contact. And I think that's when I kind of decided, I think I found a home here with the Fallen Firefighters Foundation. Of course, I'd volunteered for many years, and now I had an opportunity to still be involved with the fire service, working on our line of duty death prevention programs. And then I got an opportunity to become the managing director where it's really just keeping the wheels turning, keeping the machine
Yep.
running. While Ron went out and tried to raise money and was the outward face of the organization. And then about 2.5 years ago, Ron retired, and I threw my name in the hat. I seriously did think about retiring, and my wife, being a lot smarter than I am and a lot more loving than I am, I think she said, if you don't work, you're going to be miserable. So
Yeah.
put in for it, and I did. And I feel really honored and privileged to run the organization that is responsible to honor our fallen heroes, support their families, and to work to prevent line of duty deaths and injuries. So that's how I got there from here, and that's how
Well,
I ended up.
I used to.
Yeah.
So my first trip there was 2011 because my guy died in 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And then I never looked back, right?
Yeah.
But one of the options I got to do some cool stuff. So I used to do Taku, taking care of our own.
Uh huh. Yes. Yep.
That was a great class. Traveled. You guys took very good care of us. Traveled all over well, I was mostly the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Here, there, whatever. And then again, here's this outsider, right? Who's only there once in a while and once big time for sure for a year. And you guys just like, hey, you're part of us. As a matter of fact, when we ran into each other at the at the FDIC, everybody that was, hey, how you doing? It's like I felt like Uncle Fadooch that's been back in the old country for a year.
Yes.
Um, no, and this I don't think everybody understands, and that's why I wanted to have you on. I don't think everybody. I mean, Ryan did a good job of talking about the race, talking about this, talking about that. But I don't think everybody's got a good handle on two things. All the things that the Fallen Firefighter Foundation does, but also the explosion in the number with the ability to go back in time and request prior line of duty deaths be recognized.
Mm-hmm.
The explosion of people knowing. No, I understand this year was not as bad, but the year before was like
Well,
425.
yeah. In 2025, we honored a total of 316 firefighters. Now that's we did two ceremonies last year, so we honored
Yeah,
140 in May, and then in October we honored 176 FDNY members who had succumbed to 9/11 related diseases, and that's a one time, but it was to catch up for these 176 that had not been honored at the National Memorial. So we decided to do a second ceremony. Well, two reasons really. Main one was, it's if we had lumped them all together, all the honorees, and I hate to speak about it that way because these are men and women who've served their communities and their dads and their moms and their parents and their all that. So so I want to be really respectful that these are
yeah,
honorees that have died in the line of duty. So um, we didn't want to overshadow the 140 and all those families with 176 FDNY members. So
right.
we did the special ceremony in New York, and it was absolutely. I mean, the teams just do a phenomenal job. They're so good at what they do, and we picked up what we do in Emmitsburg and we dropped it in Staten Island at the community college there, and we combined the candlelight service and the memorial in October. And I can tell you, and I was just sharing this with somebody earlier today, as those families walked away with that flag, the flag that had been flown over the U.S. Capitol, and the flag that had been flown over the same flag flown over the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial, those families walked away with that same sense of honor that their loved one had been, honored by the nation. So, both ceremonies were extraordinary. In May of 25, it rained. We had to do it under a tent. but again, it's a tribute to the firefighters that, and you've been there. You know, the amount of effort that goes into honoring our heroes and supporting those families in that ceremony. It is absolutely the very best of the fire service. And I can't tell you how many people said every firefighter in the country should go at least once and witness
Oh,
what goes on there. So,
and we need to emphasize that because we emphasized it last time. You do not on Sunday, you do not have to be part of even the department that's any department that's mourning. That is an open for Sunday. That is an open facility, and there's a lot of I know guys that have been going there the whole time, whether they if they were escorting or not escorting, or if they had somebody there, they just go because it's moving. I think it was a great idea because it was getting, and I don't, this is going to sound disrespectful, as once, and I think it should have happened, once the medical conditions were tied and deaths were tied to 9/11, and that was an accepted thing. At first, it wasn't a lot of people that caught on to that, but then it started multiplying. So I saw two things happen. One is there was a lot more people from New York, and obviously that's nothing wrong with that. But the other side of that is that in the beginning, you know, the team that the ceremonial unit would send 4 vans up full of people, and
mhm.
then it was 2 vans, and then it was 1 van, and then it was whoever wanted to come up by themselves. And there's no reflection on the FDNY. It's just money's tight.
Yep.
Um, so and even the guys that came down, they might have their mom and dad, a couple. But if you do that in New York, you could have the whole companies there, right?
And yes, it was a beautiful thing for us to be able to do that in New York. Um, the companies came. Every firefighter had somebody from their company uh, represent and be able to step forward if they wanted to come back. With when that their name of their firefighter was named. And you got to think of the fact that some of these guys, they passed away in the last 2 or 3 years, and they hadn't been in that department for 20 years, because this is how far we're going back. Um, but I think it was extraordinarily special to be able to do that there. And um, uh, and and the other really neat thing when you talk about the ceremonial unit, so when our honor guard, the honor guard that flies the flags over the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial, we get those flags from the Capitol. They've
Yep.
already been flown over the Capitol, and so those flags that were given to those families were flown over the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial on September 11th. And our honor guard was
Nice.
like, that's the day they wanted to do it. So they came up to the campus, and that's when they flew them. And then we offered for FDNY to come down and be part of that unit that folds those flags. And the bonding that happened there, between what we do in Emmitsburg and the ceremonial units from the FDNY is, some people have said we've got lifelong friends
Oh
because of
yeah.
that connection. So it's just really special when you see all the way the fire service comes together to honor our fallen heroes. It's a remarkable industry to be part of.
It's cool that having had Tony Ruggiero on, to understand that every one of those flags is refolded meticulously
Yes,
to a
yeah.
very high standard. And if it doesn't look right, they do it over again. It
It is a process. I got to tell you, when I meet with the honor guard, or the folks that are folding those flags, and it's moving. I mean, if you think about you're absolutely right. Meticulous. Every fold is done with love, just true,
Yeah.
genuine care, and every single fold. And then it goes and it gets inspected. And if it's not perfect, it goes back. And so I had one widow who shared. She's been to lots of memorials. There's the local memorial, there's a state memorial, there's other memorials that they might go to. And she said when she gets the flag that she has from the national memorial, she's like, that's the one, that's the special one. And so
Mhm.
those honor guard members, they understand the gravity of what they're doing, and it
Yeah.
shows. It shows in their heart, and in their capacity, the capability in which they do it.
That's one of the things we talked about with when when the when the families come. So you have two diverse groups. You have folks who are just under or just over a year, right? But you
Mm-hmm.
may have folks that are a year and a half, right? Back when we did
Yeah,
it in October, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
they had been to more dinners, more this, more that, more, and it kind of wore on them. Where on the other side, you might have a 22-year-old mom with two kids, and it's raw. It's still raw. So that was one of the challenges that the foundation just does an awesome, amazing job with, is managing that that difference and managing to make sure that there everything is right. It's at the right point and it's at the right evolution for that particular person.
Yeah, it's a testament to our family programs, the folks that run and take care of the families, and they're doing it year round. We're doing. It doesn't start at the memorial. So when a determination is made,
No, it
we
starts
reach out to
before,
the
right?
families. Lots of times, and it's actually started with COVID. We started doing virtual meetings every week with spouses. We were doing a young adults one for a while, and so they get on this one. It's a Wednesday when they do it, and a lot of times they're already connected to other spouses, other family members.
Yeah.
So they've already made friends when they come to the memorial, and that's when COVID was over. Our family programs folks said we've got to continue to do these virtual meetings because it's just so special for the families. And yeah, and you're right. Our family programs folks, they it's really remarkable. We On Thursday before the memorial, we have a returning families dinner. A lot of the returning families come and they help out, and they're supporting the new families, and they're helping setting things up. And our family programs folks, they went around handing out name tags to
This
every
thing's
single
locking up
person,
on
and they
us.
didn't have to call out the name. They just walked up to the hundred or so family members that are there, and that's how personal they are with each of the families that we're connected with. So um, it is remarkable. But as you mentioned, some of our challenges upcoming is we on average we have honored about 100 firefighters a year, and as I mentioned, last year we honored 316 with two memorials. This year it was 204 that we honored. And so we've gone from that average of 100 honorees to, oh, I think it's going to stay at 200, and it may get even more so. And that's, in part because uh, we are now learning that there's things taking the lives of firefighters that we didn't recognize, 10,
Yeah.
12, 15 years ago, right? Or we were just beginning to recognize it. So, we started honoring cancer deaths in 2018, but now there's legislation that's that allows family to receive the federal death benefit for certain cancers. And when that goes through the PSOB, the Public Safety Officer Benefits Program process, I think the number of honorees is going to increase, and
Yeah.
we've already added suicide is also another criteria change that we've had.
Thank you.
So it's those firefighters, and I had somebody tell me, like, we they thought, if you die of cancer, maybe that should be a different category. And you look back at those 9/11 firefighters. They deserve to be honored just as much as those 316 that died on September 11th in 2001. And so, the fact that they're dying of this latency of and cancers, when the research shows that firefighters are getting cancer at a higher rate, then they deserve to be honored for their service as much as any other firefighter.
Well, if you think about it, they're still serving because they're still having to take medicine. There's some guys that have 11 different cancers,
Yeah,
which is mind numbing. We have a friend of ours that was on a few months ago, and he survived, but he is like a hawk. He's getting testing all the time,
yep,
um, because he's just buried too many of their friends.
yeah,
You
yep.
know what I mean? And it is heart wrenching. Um, so yeah, so you guys actually, most people don't know, when you do the memorial at the academy now, you actually put up one of those big circus tents.
Yeah, well, yes. So we do. We have a very large tent. The one we use this year is out in front of the campus there, and that's where we feed the families under that tent. And then we use Mount St. Mary's, which is about
Yep.
2 or 3 miles up the road, as our backup in case of bad weather. And then it's only available to us every other year. So last year, in 25,
Yeah.
we had rain, and we put up this is a very very large tent in the back of the campus, and we did it under the tent in the while it was raining. It was quite a challenge, but again, you walk around, and we recognize that when the buses arrive and the families come off the buses, um, it was not undercover. So they put up these small tents and tarps and all kinds of things so that the families would not get wet. And you're walking by, and these people it is pouring down rain, and they're up on ladders, fixing these things. And I went up to a guy, this happened to me twice. This one was with a chief who had been providing or giving the flags to the families. And then this last year, um, I went up and I gave the guy a hug, and water splashing off the back of his uniform. And I said, "Man, we are getting you wet." And they looked me in the eye and they said, "It's my honor." And
Yeah.
so that's what we get to work with, every day.
That's a coveted. Speaking as a chief, that's a coveted position to be
It,
to be one of those. And you have great guys. Don't get me
oh
wrong.
yeah,
I'm not whining.
I understood.
Because I
Yeah,
have a different role, but there's some big names. They're not like you know Billy Bob and Joe. They're some big nationally known guys. Uh,
yeah, and we try to we try to mix it a little bit. A lot of well recognized people who are going to be well known. A lot of them, if they're on our board, they're always any chief who's on our board is going to have that role.
yeah,
Um, and then, for example, we Vigilant Hose, which is the fire, the Emmitsburg Firehouse right up the street. One year we had the chief of that department. They do so much for us.
yeah.
They just they open up. They just do, whatever I call them and ask them to do, the answer is always yes.
I
So,
think that's the Friday night dinner, right? If I remember correctly, don't they do a
well,
dinner
well,
on Friday
they
night?
they have done a dinner for us on Friday night. Yeah. So, but yeah, so it's we try to mix it up, but you're right. I think it's tough duty. I mean, I was
Oh,
watching this past year. When a small child, I mean, elementary school child comes up, and that chief gets on that knee and presents that flag. I don't know how they hold it together, but they
I don't.
do. And
I, I don't
yeah,
know. I don't know who it was, but I don't know how the chief that handed Wendy Norris the flag
yeah,
kept it together.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't, because their family's the mainstay. Uh,
Yes. Yep.
I don't. I I've talked about this before. That moving to me, it goes two ways. One is when you have, again, the very young mother with a couple of kids, or
Mhm.
two or three or one, and then the parents of her late husband, and they're all just trying to survive. They're all battling different ways with their loss, right?
Yep.
And then they're trying to make it through. Um, and then the opposite of that is the 69-year-old fire policeman, right, who gets hit
Yep.
on the highway or has a heart attack taking traffic. And now we've got young adults trying to hold up the 72-year-old
Yeah.
grandma,
Yeah.
right? And then all the rest of the trail. And that's where we have to say, is it okay if, only five of us or six of us go up? Because we don't really have the room. I think we're going to lose. Just, just so everybody knows, we're in the middle of a thunderstorm here, pretty good one. That's why the lights keep dimming. So
Okay.
we're gonna give a quick prayer to God that will not take this out.
Okay.
Because I think when we do that, we lose the internet. Having
So
said that,
yeah, well, it's happening here too. So just so you know, yeah,
okay, we're both in the same. Um,
same weather pattern, I think. Yeah.
yep.
Yep.
Can you still
So, say again.
you can still hear me, right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Um, so let's talk about new things. So we have heard about the golf tournaments, and we have heard about the race. Um, I'm not a racer, so I can't remember where it's at.
Right.
But what else? What other things are new and coming, or that just that are just kind of getting their feet wet?
Okay. Well, so yeah, talk about the race real quick. We had Wheeling. They have their number two Jason Love car. It's going to race first weekend in October in Charlotte. It's got on the trunk lid
Beautiful.
every firefighter that we honored in May is on that trunk lid, and we unveiled that at FDIC. At FDIC, we had just a wonderful event. A lot of what FDIC did this year was commemorating 9/11. And so at our fundraiser on Thursday night at the Indiana Ballroom, we honored Chief Pete Gansey. His son, Chris Gansey, was there. Chief Ed Plogger from Arlington,
Yep.
Virginia. And we couldn't get Terry Schaefer from Shanksville, Pennsylvania there, but we got him on videotape and
Nice.
gave them a little message. So we honored those three men. Talked about leadership, right? And what we're covering, and these are three men who stepped up at critical point in our nation's history and demonstrated their leadership. And I think it's at any given moment, any fire chief in the country is going to be responsible to do that. And of course, Pete Gansey, gave his life doing so. So Chris did a phenomenal job of speaking about that. So that was a really special event. And then on our line of duty death prevention programs, our advocate program. So our advocates, we used to have about 100 or so across the country. They would get all of our line of duty death prevention training programs. They're really our boots on the ground to try to really promote this this whole line of duty death prevention. And so that's exploded. We have over 300 advocates across the country. Go to our website, go down to the bottom and link onto our advocates if you're interested. Anybody who's in the fire service. And these are all accomplished people, accomplished in their departments. I know we get a lot of pushback, or maybe pushback's the wrong word, but we get a lot of like, hey, safety, that's, we shouldn't be promoting safety. We're, maybe not really encouraging the courage that's required, and that's just not the case. We know firefighters are going to die in the line of duty. We've changed our everyone goes home program to we're saying, look, until everyone goes home, we're going to keep putting our efforts into it. And it's aspirational, and by all means, you know what you're doing, but we want you to be well trained, make the best decisions possible. And so there's a lot of work going there. We now have a fellows program, which is just it's about 8 to 12 fire service people that go through a much more extensive program for 1 year. They get exposed to a lot of the national programs that we're doing, a lot of the national events, and they have a practicum at the end. We're working with the Center for Public Safety Excellence to get them their fire officer certifications at the end of it. There's some other certifications that they're getting. So some of the comments back from the fellows group, I just read one, and Chief Danny Kistner out of Texas. He's now our director of fire programs and just doing a fantastic job. And he one of the fellows came back and said, I knew this was going to be a good program, but it was life changing. Not only professionally but personally. And so it's been a really good event. Of course, our affiliate, the First Responder Center for Excellence, is doing a lot of work on what Frank Lieb. He's the managing director for the FRCE.
Can you talk a little bit about that connection?
Sure. Yeah. So a bunch of years ago, we were getting requests to do things for law enforcement, EMS, and we couldn't really do it as the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. So our board created the First Responder Center for Excellence, and so we can outreach to other organizations. But then, but now Frank Lieb, who's running that, and he was on the advisory, one of the advisory committees prior to him taking over as the managing director. And as he was retiring out of FDNY, we were looking for a new managing director, and he called and said, "Hey, I think I want to throw my name in the hat." And what a phenomenal guy! I mean, he's just knowledgeable, charismatic, down to earth, and he's just the right guy to be doing it. And what he talks about is we're protecting the blind side of what's taking the lives of firefighters.
Yep.
So mental health, cancer, cardiac, fitness, all those elements that that are required to be a firefighter. So they're doing some phenomenal work. In just about a week and a half from now, we're going to be in Iowa City doing a mental health symposium. If you Google First Responder Center for Excellence or FRCE mental health, you can go to the website. You can still sign up to attend that in Iowa. We did one in Nashville, Tennessee last year. It was a mental health and suicide prevention program. Just phenomenal work that's being done to make sure that we do everything we can to have fewer firefighters to honor, fewer families to serve, and they're doing phenomenal work. Despite that, our number of honorees continues to increase because of the knowledge that we have. But with that knowledge, we need to be doing a better job of protecting our firefighters from having to make the ultimate sacrifice.
We were very lucky. We had Frank on a little while ago. I think just as he was retiring. I think it was before he went there.
Okay.
Oh,
Yep.
I don't know. No, it wasn't, because when I grabbed him at the FDIC, he handed me that card.
Okay.
He handed me their organization's card.
Yeah.
I just want to highlight someone local. So Chris Koretsky,
yes,
is an all-star around here. You want to talk about somebody that's dedicated to anything NFFF, National Fallen Firefighters. Chris is there.
He is an all-star, no question. He is definitely. I used to say he's an up and comer, but he's already he's an arrival. He's already there. And you're right. I saw him at the memorial. If we're doing something, he's all about it. And really carrying the message for us. And so when I talk about those guys, those advocates being the boots on the ground. Yeah, that's a Chris Koretsky, man. He is boots on the ground, getting it done for us there,
I
and
mean,
doing everything he can.
we're also lucky enough to have Kevin, in the neighborhood and stuff. So we're not missing out on a lot,
No,
uh,
you guys are doing good up there in Connecticut, no doubt. Yeah,
right? But the first time I saw Kevin, no, Chris,
Chris. Yep.
him and another young lady were dealing with uh, five five kids, all under 7 years old, and their mom, and then their grandparents
Oh yeah,
trying to navigate this,
yeah,
and
yep,
they were spectacular. I couldn't have kept, and that's why old people don't have kids anymore. I I couldn't keep up with them. That was years ago, and those two were all over it. They
yeah.
were they were constantly moving.
Well, those escorts, those folks that take care of the families of the memorial, that's another, really quite often our first personal connection with the family is that escort connecting with that family at the memorial, and the things that those family escorts do to take care of those families is there's every now and again I get a nugget of of something just beautiful that they do, but it's we had over 900 family members at the memorial this past year,
Yeah,
honoring 204 firefighters, over 200 family escorts, and they are prepared to take care of those little kids. So if the kids get antsy, the mom and or the dad or whoever it is can just focus on that ceremony. It's just one of those people who they lead with their heart, and but they're extraordinarily capable along with what they do. It's beautiful.
when you see a guy that's been in the fire service for 15 years, he's a rugged guy, and he stands up and he goes, "I need a lollipop now," right? And everybody's like, "I got
Yeah,
one, I got." All of a sudden, they're like coming out of other
yeah,
everybody else's pockets, right?
yeah.
Or
They're stumbling all over each other to give that guy a lollipop.
and then there's another guy he's given a little Dalmatian stuffed
Yep.
toy to his kid, and the kid next to him from a different family. The whole thing, he's going, "How come I didn't get one?"
You get one too.
I'm
Yeah,
serious. They come loaded with backpacks.
they
They
do.
come
Yes.
loaded with literally bags on their backs. Is it going to rain? All right, I've got 3 ponchos. Is it going to this? Is it going to that? It is. I think they all do. I mean, we talked about the honor guard, and we talked about but even like you talked about the ICS. One of the first things we talked about into two was that you need to treat this like a fire.
Yep.
This could turn into a mass casualty event on its own.
Hmm.
You got to treat this like a fire. And even if you want to be this and you want to be doing that, then someone else has got to do your job. If it's a chief that has to be right here, okay. But then you give your deputy the responsibility so that when the fuel truck shows up at the church to deliver oil,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
and you can't get the cars around it, there's someone there. There's someone there, that can handle that for you.
I
You
can
know,
tell you, we did a taking care of our own class for a fire department here in Maryland, and that chief every year they would do a tabletop exercise for line of duty death
no
prevention,
kidding. Wow.
and they did a whole tabletop, and years later he's no longer the chief. There's a new chief in play, but the chief that's there was a deputy, and they had a line of duty death, and about 4 or 5 months after their line of duty death, I was talking to one of the members of their department, and I asked, I said, "How did things go?" They said, "This firefighter," he says, "they knew exactly what to do. They knew exactly what we needed."
Yep.
And I'm going back to that. They tabletop this thing. They went through lots of scenarios as a senior, high level management team, so that when it happened, they just did what they practiced.
Yep.
And that's exactly what you're talking about, is doing that preparation work. And I would add now, the fact of the matter is that you're more likely to have a suicide death in your department than a line of, and that
Yeah.
might be a line of duty death.
Yeah.
But those things, departments ought to be table topping those. They should be doing those scenarios, because, and we've seen it, and I'm sure you've seen it. If a department's dysfunctional and you have a line of duty death, man, that dysfunction shows. It could tear the department apart. But when you're prepared, the way this department was, the unity that it brought to all the firefighters, when you've got rank and file saying my chiefs knew exactly what to do and they knew
Yeah.
what we needed, an amazing testament of leadership and preparation, and that's a lesson that every department should learn.
I need to take a left hand turn here and get a little serious. So if you had an emergency responder that overdosed, and there was tell me where, and a lot of people say, well, maybe this guy overdosed because of all the stress. He did it on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the DOJ with that? Or whatever it is, there was some other. It wasn't a gunshot. It wasn't a hanging. It was a collateral
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Sure. I think that this is what my recommendation would be. I can't speak of what PSOB would do, but I would tell you, by all means, uh, we should reach out to our local assistant state teams and do the paperwork. It's very possible that that was maybe potentially an intentional suicide, right? So first off, if you're having anybody who's having those thoughts, reach out to your employee assistance program, reach
Yeah,
out to your friend, call 988, whatever it takes. But I would say that, I can tell you, when I first started as the director of fire programs in 2010, we were doing a program in Chicago, and we were at the Chicago Training Academy, and I think it's still the same place, which is presumably where the cow tipped over the lantern that started the Great Chicago Fire. Right, that's the spot where their training academy is where supposedly where that spot is. And I'm looking outside, and I'm looking at the fire trucks, and it's they've got the black over red. And I'm like, where have I seen that? And I'm like, oh yeah, backdraft. And it's
yeah,
it's the Chicago Fire Department. So anyway, we were there. They had a firefighter that had been severely injured at an incident where there were other fatalities, other firefighter fatalities, and this guy he drank himself to death and died. And it might have been an overdose, but at the very least, it was uh, they they honored him as it was a line of duty death, and
right.
that's what they felt it was the right thing to do, because of the circumstances. So we don't know what those circumstances would be in this case, but if there's any indication that it could be possibly be intentional, then I would say yes, fill out the paperwork. There's certain circumstances where that firefighter would have had to have been involved with an incident where there was multiple fatalities, or if they'd had a piece,
PT,
PTSD
yeah,
diagnosis, then it's very possible that would run
because
through and be approved.
they may have had counseling and the whole thing,
Right,
right? But it just ate him away
right.
or her away. I
Yes,
don't mean to
yeah,
pigeonhole men in this.
yes.
Um, that's we talk a lot. We spend a lot of time. I do some recruit training, and we just talk a lot about the things, that you're not regular for. That the famous line I love is from the Detroit movie Burning, is the pump operator. It says, my brain can't forget what my eyes have seen.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we're doing a better job than back in the day. Right.
Agreed.
We don't take them out and get them drunk. We don't do all that. We have uh, local stress teams that'll come to the scene. We
Hmm.
have local stress teams that'll come help. There's a lot more. Um, I mean, the unions taking a bigger stand on it. The municipalities are taking a bigger stand on it. There's that. You get damaged. You just do. You
You
know.
do. Yeah. And you're right. You can't unsee what you've seen. And yeah, so I think, for example, the suicide and mental health symposium we did in Nashville last April, it was standing room only. Try that 10, 15 years ago,
Oh
hardly anybody would have shown up.
yeah. Yep.
So, I think that that's true at, the FDICs, any trade show where we're talking mental health. Frank Lido from the FDNY has done a lot of work with us over the years, and he'll tell you, where if he goes and speaks, and that's a guy that, I mean, he'll forget more than I'll ever know related to mental health for fire service. And he gets a crowd because he's been there. He's, dealt with it one way or another. And, he speaks with authority, and people want to know. People, that's, again, it's one of that tabletop exercise. I need to know what the best practices are. And there's so much research, but there's still so much we know that we don't
Yeah.
know. And, I look at,
Yeah.
the what the military has done. It's we've got a long way to solving it, but I think you're 100%, Nick. Is we're doing so much better than we were, and it's something the municipalities, the departments, they now recognize. I have to address it. It's a liability if I don't.
I.
And
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
no,
Go ahead.
and it's an injury. It's these are injuries like a broken arm. But when I was coming up through, if somebody was certified as crazy, man, we would ride that person. We would
Yeah.
make it was awful what we did. And now it's I think people are recognizing it's an injury that you can recover from.
That's the good news. I have to think. Um. Again, talking to my buddy from New Hampshire. Um. I got to think there's a lot of that stress debriefings and this debriefing and that debriefing. Um. Hopefully going on, right? Because these are. I think every firehouse is a family, but when the whole town is 1,000 people,
Yeah.
right? Now, and if you looked at the picture of the firehouse with the flowers in front of it, that's exactly what I expected to see. I didn't expect to see a brand new Seagrave. I didn't expect to see. We've had these conversations. John Buckman's got a little group that emails every once in a while, and the intent is it's for departments that go out to less than 200 calls a year.
Hmm.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's different. And I guarantee you, they're not driving a brand new rig. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to bet uh, not only is it used, it's probably used twice.
Yeah.
Right? One department bought it from a big city department, and then from there it was sold for peanuts to these people that they don't have anything, right?
Right.
And they're
Yeah.
running their business on ham and bean dinners and chicken tosses or whatever, turkey
Yeah.
tosses.
And that's to put tires and fuel in the fire truck,
Yeah.
let alone buying something that's buying a fire truck. Yeah, so
Yep.
I think that, and you're right. That's where the peer support is, so essential. That's one of the things we've learned is just how valuable that peer support is, and I think like Connecticut has done a really nice job of creating a statewide peer
Yes.
program. So
Yep.
I think there's ways. I think John Buckland's definitely onto something there with trying to make these connections where you can do this outreach and kind of you may not have you may only have 20, 30 people, maybe not even that many riding, but the surrounding jurisdictions can help support and create those kinds of teams where you can help one another.
No, just absolutely. Um, so what else is what?
Yeah, so along those lines, so we have a tremendously valuable uniform support group. Right along what we're talking about here is we've got a chief to chief program, incident commander to incident commander program. Yep, and our company officer to company officer and coworkers. And I think there's again we had about 35 chiefs come to our chief to chief program at the memorial, and it's an opportunity for chiefs to be able to let their hair down, and
Yep.
they everybody there is a peer. They've been where you are, and so the opportunity to just really be able to share your story and get that level of support is huge. So I'm really proud of that program. John Tippett, when he was director of fire programs, kind of got it going, and what um, Danny Kistner and a guy by the name of Ian Bennett is running that, and it's a really really valuable program. So
I,
so
I
yeah,
want to
that's
give I want to give Jimmy McLaughlin a
yes,
pat on the
yeah.
back
Thank you for
for
doing
the
that. Yes,
incident commander to incident commander.
he did. Yes, and he was a lot of the reason we're doing that. He thank you for mentioning that. And yeah, that would have been a terrible to not give Jimmy credit for getting that started, planting that seed, and having us move forward with that. It was his idea to do that, and I got I've had two incident commanders at two different times tell me if it hadn't been for the chief for the incident command the IC program, I would not be walking on this planet today. Two separate ones, different times. So yeah, Jimmy, but thank you for mentioning that.
Well,
That's a lifesaver.
Jimmy's experience was not good.
No,
I'm saying
correct.
post
Yeah.
experience was not good. So in addition to losing one of his men, he's got all this other stuff going on. So we talked about it, and I said, "Yeah, run it up the." I'm not taking credit at all. This is all Jim.
Hmm.
But he goes because he knew that I had done chief to chief. He says, "What do you think about this?" I said, "Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah.
Go
Yep.
for it." Right? What are
Yep.
they going to say? No.
Right. Yeah. Took a little while to get it going, and Jimmy, he's so what a class guy. Yeah, absolutely.
He is a
No,
class.
that's yeah, for sure. So yeah, we got that going. So a lot on our line of duty death prevention between what Danny's doing on decision making, supporting those uniform support groups, our fellows programs, and then what Frank is doing at the First Responder Center for Excellence. We got some stuff on sleep, got some stuff on diabetes, more cancer prevention. We've got a really robust program on the Fire Hero Learning Network for each online training programs. They're free. Just take them. It's easy. So that's really good. And on our family program side, it they our family programs is on top of it. But we're really needing to rethink how we do things because when we're honoring about 100 firefighters a year to 200, that's a bigger strain on the organization. And
Yeah.
so we're getting ready to do a kids camp. We've got about 60 kids coming to kids camp. We have each of the kids gets a big buddy. So this is we do. There's about 5 or 6 like toddler age, really really young, and then all the way from kindergarten to finishing high school, and they're broken down by age groups. We get those kids go to those kids camps, and nobody has to ask, about their firefighter. They all know.
Yeah.
Again, it's that peer component, and we've got. Two stories I'll tell you. It's really moving. We had a daughter of a fallen firefighter. Um, that had taken the shirt. We have the family shirts at the memorial. It's got the names of all the fallen heroes on the back of the T-shirt. Well, she hated that shirt. She just didn't want to wear the shirt. She went to kids camp, and her mom says she came back first day of school, and her daughter's wearing that shirt. Mom says, "I thought you hated that shirt." She's like, "I think I'm ready to wear it now." It's just a beautiful. And then I had another mom who's has a younger son. It was she had a son that was killed in the line of duty, another son who was in high school, and she talked about he's not doing that well. She says we got to do something, so she signed him up for kids camp. There's claw marks all the way from home to the kids camp. He didn't want to go, but he came back, and she says he's got a spring in his step, and he drops his things off on his bed, and he's heading out. And I said, "Where are you going?" And he says, "I'm going swimming with my friends." And the mom looks at me, and she looks at me in the eyes, and she says, "I got my son back."
Yeah.
And one of our advisory board members, I was sharing that story with him, and he said that mom lost one son, and she got one back.
Yeah.
That's the one that got me when he mentioned that. So so kids camp is phenomenal.
I
Some
think
of those kids, go ahead.
Tony and his wife are all over that, right?
Yes, yeah, yep, yeah.
Yep.
So
In fact, this is I want a reason I said that. I want everybody to understand. Tony gets invited to graduations,
yes, yeah,
and Tony and his wife or the family, or at least Tony, if not the whole family, go.
yeah,
And I'm not talking about something 60 miles away. It includes travel, like
right.
airplanes or day to get there, and that's how tight those connections are.
They are. Yeah, it's
You know,
amazing.
that's just beautiful.
It is beautiful. Yeah, you're right. And now we've got kids who've gone through kids camp and are college age, and they're coming back to be big buddies to other kids. Yeah. So how amazing is that? So it's so we're just so those are the kinds of things that just motivate all of us. The whole organization is like, oh yeah, that's why we do what we do. So yeah, we're really excited about kids camp coming up. Scholarship process is going through. We're getting ready to go through the scholarships, and that's other great, some tremendously great stories about
I
the
don't
transformations that we're making for kids who are going to college.
I don't think everybody understands how many scholarships are going out.
Yeah, so last year we did about 60 something scholarships. Um, and it's the guy by the name of Dave Levy's on our advisory committee. He runs that. He's the board chair for the scholarship committee. He has transformed our process. He's just so we really look at academic achievement and financial need. Everybody gets something, but we have we have uh, a college age kid who lost their mom to cancer, and 3 months later, um, dad dies in the line of duty, and we were able to give that that student a full ride for 4 years, and and they're doing phenomenal. They're graduating. We've got one. We got medical doctors. All kind. People that are just really excelling, and we're literally transforming the lives. And we have one who was captain of the basketball team, did all kinds of different events, and super high achievers. These children of fallen firefighters, and one of the moms said, the reason that student could do those things is because they didn't have to work. They didn't have to try to make ends meet, earn their money,
Right.
and pay their way through college, and they're coming out of college debt free. And
Yeah.
it's so we're just I'm so proud of the organ, what we're able to do. So we're looking at probably about 50 or 60 scholarships this year,
Awesome.
and it's so we'll continue to do that. We've got our partner, uh, parents and parents retreat. We just did one in Atlanta, about 40, mostly moms or widows, moms and widows of fallen firefighters. We had one woman came down. She said she hadn't left her house in 2 years, and to see the families, the other wives, wrap their arms around her and support her and say, you're in the right place. Um, so you think about think of our own lives, right? And you're married, you have this future ahead, and all of a sudden it changes dramatically, and you're faced with a life of maybe raising children without your spouse. And so we're our ability to come in and support those families is it's tremendous. We're just so our family programs is a phenomenal job. So soup to nuts. We're doing everything we can to prevent line of duty deaths and injuries, supporting organizations that do so, helping departments plan, make sure you have a plan, make sure you're ready to take care of those families, keep the departments going. And then when if and when the worst happens, we'll be able to step in, support coworkers, and be there for those families. And that's the mission. That's the mission. And every day we roll up our sleeves and get it done. It's a remarkable team that pulls it all together.
And I got to tell you, some of these are lifetime relationships.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
so we had a young guy in New Jersey, Kevin Apuzio. He
Yes.
passed away. They just celebrated his anniversary with a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I reached out to Danny, the chief, and Danny was hooking me up with a hotel room and this, that, whatever I needed. Um, and unfortunately, um, I had one of our parishioners passed away, and
Mm.
I stayed home.
Yep.
But even like if you look at who's the um, who's your maitre d at
Oh,
the
yes. From New Jersey, out of Wildwood. Got it.
no, he was chief in Atlanta, and then he was chief in DC.
Oh, yeah. Reuben.
Dennis
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 Rubin.
Rubin,
Yes. Yeah.
lifetime, right?
Yes.
So I worked with Dennis. He had two fatalities when he was in Atlanta. So I
Yep.
worked with him on the first one, and then 2 years
Mm.
later, I worked with him on the second one. But
Yeah.
lifetime friends. Matter of fact, we had him on the show because he goes from hotspot to hotspot.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
goes, he spends a little while, fixes things, and then looks around for
Right. What else? What else needs
someplace
fixing?
exciting to work.
Yeah.
So he does that.
Yeah. And he comes. Yeah, he's at the memorial, serving
Yep.
dinner,
He's got his
lunch.
got
Yeah.
his white jacket on. He's got the bow tie on.
Yeah.
He's seating people, right? And
Yes.
I tell the people, you see that guy over there? That guy used to be the fire chief of Washington D.C. No way. Yep,
Yeah.
that's him. Right?
Well, and if you look at all of them, you got there's so many people in
Oh
that
yeah.
group of chiefs, and they take such great pride. Not anybody can be the people who serve dinner or serve the meals to the families.
Oh yeah.
You have got to make the cut, and they see themselves, and they're like the special operations teams of the Memorial Weekend. And it's like you may want to do honor guard, you might be escort, but to do this, you've got to make the cut. It's
Yeah.
very special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. It was just like the command team. We had Ronnie. Ronnie was with us in this region for a little while, and then he went back to this. Well, he went to Wilton, and then he went. I think. Well, then he went back to
Yeah.
the city
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah.
But again, uh, smart people doing
Yes.
smart. Some of the things we've worked through are pretty exciting. We don't talk about them. But that's what happens when you bring 300 mourners together,
Yeah. Yep.
right?
Well, and I told the command team, I think as we were wrapping up for the memorial, our last briefing is on Saturday night because Sunday, we just everybody's busy, and then we wrap up. So Saturday afternoon, I just got I talked about how and you've probably I know you've dealt with this, right? People come up to you and they'll say, this is what I'm passionate about," and I shared the story a few times, but and I say, people come up and say, "I'm passionate about whatever it might be," that supporting the families or whatever it is, and in my head, I think, it's not this organization isn't here to satisfy your passions, but the people that are the incident commanders, the overhead team, the management team, the people who serve the families, right? Um, they're passionate and competent.
Right.
They have an immense amount of capability. They're problem solvers. They're high achievers in their own right, and they're passionate. And man, you combine those two, this is a team. I wish I could take them everywhere because there
Oh
isn't a
yeah.
problem we won't solve. There isn't an issue we can't fix. Um, in fact, one year, this is a couple years ago, the dad of a fallen firefighters remarks back to us was, "Whoever runs the national memorial for fallen firefighters should be running the country." It was a great line. It was a
Well,
great line.
and again, I'm not going to go too deep, but one of the biggest honors I think is, I'm just talking about for the escorts, is when you're in with a large group of escorts and they say, "I need to see this guy, and this guy in the hallway now."
Yeah,
Something's up,
yeah,
right? And then you don't see him for the rest of the day, right? And then you see him on, during the festivities, and that's because firefighters live crazy lives.
complicated lives. Yes,
Complicated, thank you.
yes,
Complicated
yeah,
lives. And there may be times where you have to keep the uh, common law wife away from the
yeah,
past wife or whatever it may be, or the
yeah,
mother and father doesn't like this, or this one doesn't like that. And you know what? They make it work.
yeah. I got to tell you, Matt and Jeannie Tobia are masters at
Yes, they are.
taking care of making sure every dot is, every I is dotted, every T is crossed when it comes to making sure those escorts
They do.
are
They do.
squared away. Yeah, yeah.
That's how is the brains of the outfit doing?
Well,
That's what we call Genie.
yes, exactly. So when it comes to this brain, it's slim pickings. But when it comes to the group, I mean, they're really doing. They're doing. Everybody's doing phenomenal. We've got the right people in the right places. We brought on a new director of advancement who's helping us with our fundraising opportunities and events. We've got a chief financial officer who's a volunteer firefighter in Frederick County. She's phenomenal. Just super squared away, passionate about the mission, and our chief advancement officer. Her husband is a 32-year firefighter out of upstate New York. We've got the right people in the right seats, and we're really preparing ourselves for the expansion that we know is coming. We've seen it, over the last couple of years, and we talked about it, 100 to 200 honorees, who knows how many more. But we've got we've got a tremendous team, and just like we talked about for the memorial, those folks, it's the best of the fire service. So we're in a really, really good place. But I tell our board this, I tell our staff this. We don't have time to pat ourselves on the back. There's too much work that needs to be done, too much that we need to yet accomplish to be able to really continue to be as good as we possibly can be. When we were created by Congress, and that's we say that a lot. 1992, Congress created by law, the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation exists. The President of the United States in 92 signed it into law that there will be an organization that honors our fallen heroes, supports their families, and works to prevent line of duty deaths and injuries. So I think we need to be reminded that when they did that, they no longer is it just a local responsibility to honor our fallen heroes. It's a national responsibility. So that weight falls on the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. But we've got guys like you, Nick. We've got guys like Dennis Rubin. We got, all these other people, uh, the 200 plus escorts that were taking care of the families this past May. They share that weight. So it's not all on our staff. It's on the fire service to carry that weight, and they're doing it. And we just need to continue to make sure we maintain those values to continue to honor our fallen and support their families.
I don't think everybody realizes. So let's talk about the sofa store fire,
Yeah.
right down south. There, a team. I don't know if they got in a van and drove down or flew down, but a team from the fallen firefighters was on the scene.
So weeks before
Of nine,
that,
right?
yeah. So I tell you, weeks before that, we had started to stand up our local assistant state teams,
Right.
our last teams. So our last teams are, they try to deploy within just a few hours of learning of line of duty death. In Maine, my understanding is during the incident, the Maine state fire marshal called the last team and had them deploy. So
Yep.
they knew right away this was going to be a bad incident and they needed the last team. So our last team, so when the Super Sofa Store fire happened, we had just started ramping up last teams, and we had just trained a team in South Carolina. So weeks later, that incident occurs. We head down. I was not part of that day. I wasn't with the organization at the time, but we went down and stood up that command post. Started working everything required to support that department, support those families, make sure we had all the funeral services ready to go. And that's what our last teams do. They're trained to make sure that they can support that department for every single aspect related to the fire department funeral. The fact that people from all over the country and maybe all over the world are going to come to honor that firefighter,
Mhm.
and so we work with that department. But their main focus is to make sure that all the paperwork that's is required for the public safety officer benefits program is properly completed and submitted, so that if that family is eligible to receive that death benefit, they receive that.
Mhm.
And so they'll work with the department to get all that paperwork done, make sure that it's and they get training every year. They come back. They know all the protocols for funerals, but they also know all the aspects of completing the paperwork for PSOB. So if you do have a line of duty death, just reach out to the local assistant state team. There's one in just about every single state.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
We
we
have
got a
one.
tremendous one over there. Yeah.
Yeah, we have one in Connecticut.
Yep.
Great resource.
Yes. Yeah.
Very, very
So so yeah, it's so that resource is there, and they're constantly, they're up on the latest, when it comes to the new cancer legislation, when it comes to the legislation related to suicide. They get training on, making sure that they understand those processes, and they can help with local, state benefits as well. They should be up on, any of the local state stuff as well. So yeah, it's yeah, we do a lot for a small. We've got a small footprint when it comes to people, but it's we have a national footprint for sure, and we work really hard to be good stewards of everything that's given
right.
to us. About 84 cents of every dollar that's donated to us goes to programs, goes to our families or our line of duty death prevention programs. Really proud of that. I'd love to have it less, and one day I will have it less. But yeah, about 15, 16 cents is what we got to cover to keep the lights on and pay for the copiers and that kind of stuff. So
And you're not a huge team. I mean, the office at the academy is not. It's not like 60 people wandering around.
no, we're about 28 people. We're
Right.
28 people, and then rely on people like you to help carry the weight of
Oh,
the
thanks.
responsibility that we have.
No, I appreciate that. I'm slowing down these days, but I appreciate that.
Uh,
Well, listen, we've been going almost an hour and a half. Um, is there anything breaking news, or I mean, you've enlightened me on so many things I didn't even knew were being done. But can you share anything that's coming down the track that you haven't shared already, or that you're comfortable sharing?
um, we're going to do some stuff probably around July 4th. We've got the stair climbs, more stair climbs this year because
Yep.
of the 25th year commemoration. There's opportunities there to support, and come out and remember those 343 plus the over 400 now that have died as a result of 9/11 related diseases. Those are all going to be really big deals. We have a beautiful tree lighting and winter retreat ceremony for our families. These are for families whose firefighters have already been honored. I had one widow talked about she hadn't celebrated Christmas in over 7 years since her husband had died, and she was ready to do that. That whole peer support group, again, we have, as we've talked about, it's a great event. That's usually the first weekend, first Saturday or Friday in December. Um, so yeah, we're I think our biggest planning right now is related to how are we going to manage the larger number of honorees every year. We need to be really being prepared on that, and realizing that what's worked for the last 35 years um, isn't we just can't keep doing it the same way because the strain on the organization is much greater, and so we've got to find innovative ways to support those folks. Yeah, I think it's kind of where we're at right now. My genuine true vision, and I don't know that I'll ever see it, is I want us to be the organization that you know we're fighting for grants, trying to get federal dollars. We know that those are not going to be there forever. We should be giving grants. We should be the ones
Yeah.
that are offering. If there's studies on grief, if there's information or departments want to try pilot programs to support a line of duty death prevention program, we should be the organization that can
Yeah.
support those things, and I think that's where that's the long term vision of where I think we need to be as an organization, and then clearly being able to make sure that every kid who wants to go to his kids camp absolutely 100% can go. So yeah, that's more long term. And I told our Anne Marie Judge is her name. She's our director of advancement, and I said, we're building this airplane while we're flying it, so we're just going to keep
Yeah.
working it. Yeah.
But that's always been the adaptability, I don't know, the motion or the theme of that group is what are we going to do about this? I don't know. What do or this
Yeah.
is well, I get ready for PSOB. No, the forever chemicals. It's just
Oh
a matter
yeah, PFAS. Yeah.
of PFAS before that gets hooked in.
Yep.
Um, it's just there are we continue to create hazards that are unlike the hazards we're still trying to keep people from dying from,
Yes. Yep.
right? So we have a lot of we have a lot of we don't need two people outside, or I'm just going to go take a quick look, or whatever we want. Or, and again, I don't know what was going on up in Maine, but you may be actually doing what would be standard practice, and then something new
Right.
develops that we never saw before.
Yep.
Or it could be the other side of it is maybe there's something we could teach all these rural communities about, silos. Um, and again, that's just a matter of time before some federal agency gets a hold of that, whether it's agriculture or OSHA or whatever,
Hmm.
right? And then we'll have to respond to that. The academy will respond to talk about that with training, and then um, and then we'll have to deal with, come up with some proactive preventative measure
Right.
to do that. I mean, we were talking to Frank and Lieb, and in some of these tests, uh, the about respiratory protection, we don't we don't think about the pump operators. We don't think about the incident commanders. Now, luckily, the investigators, I don't know if you noticed with the ATF, when they went up to Maine, they all had cartridge respirators
Yeah.
on.
Yep.
It's a different thing. But, the next big swoop is going to be, because pump operators, some of them are young, but a lot of times that's where the mature guys grow to,
Yep.
right? They're standing in this yuck. And we're finding out that there's stuff in the yuck we don't even know is there.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to wear a respirator. Oh boy, right? And that means you got to go to the doctor or a medical professional and get signed off. You can wear an air purifying respirator.
Right.
It's all for their good, but they're not going to like it.
And they were doing studies at the University of Illinois, and they had sensors up outside, and they were had sensors, and they were tracking the carcinogens inside the burn building, and then they realized the sensors outside were getting the smoke. And then they started to think, well, what about the pump operators? What about the incident commanders?
Yeah.
It's all these people outside have exposure issues as well. So
We
yeah,
we
it's
talked
yeah.
we talked on that when we talked about the carcinogens and stuff. So somewhere's down south, Prince something county, they uh they they had guys and gals teams do a urine test and a blood test, then take their time and get completely covered up,
Mhm.
right? Everything's perfect. They're all double checked, and then they ran them in to two simple room and contents fires. Had them go in, put the fire out, come out. They didn't take their masks off. They just cooled off, and then went into another fire event. When they got done, they took the same samples, urine and blood, and they found solids in the blood.
Wow.
And what they figured out was when these pores open up,
Hmm.
right, whatever's there gets on the skin, and then when the pores cool down, the solids inside, and then your body's going to do what your body does.
Yeah.
It's going to attack it and break it down. And so the scary part there was everybody had masks on, and I
Yeah.
mean hoods and the whole thing. So I think it's just going to continue to just, the more studies and the more information we get, it's just going to be one of those things.
Yeah, and that's why the research we've really got to push to have more resources to do the research, so then we can take that research and apply it to the fire ground. It's
Yeah.
and we've a lot has happened over the years. You look at what UL has done,
Oh
and
yeah.
so many other research. They've debunked things that that you and I were learning when we were coming up through. The pushing fire and putting a hose line in a window was like it was like you never did that. Coming
Right.
up through, and now we're realizing that's perfectly fine to do. Knock it and
No,
but
we had to come up with the transitional attack.
yeah, yep.
Listen, I watched when I was 18 years old in New York, watching Buffin, watching them. They went up to a brownstone, and the whole living room windows were all going. It was blown out. The lieutenant would have them bounce it off the ceiling
Hmm.
before they'd make their entry, and then they'd make their entry.
Yeah.
They didn't call it transitional attack. They said, "Put the water on the fire."
Right.
Right.
Didn't need a fancy word. Just put the fire out. Yeah,
Right, and then we'll go inside and we'll get it.
that's it.
Well, sir, thank you so much.
Oh man,
Uh,
thank you, Nick. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about the foundation and the things that we're doing and things like guys like you and so many others that are
uh,
supporting us. Yeah.
that's a part of my life that I truly enjoyed. Uh, because of health issues and other things, this and moving to the first weekend in May,
Yeah.
that's my anniversary. So
Uh,
this year it was like we're not going to we're not going to do that. I've met wonderful people, lifelong friends.
yeah.
We I I have several escorts that I escorted.
Yeah.
Right, that was a tremendous, tremendous emotional thing to see them the next year there,
Yep.
or call and say, "Do you want to ride down together?" You
That's
know,
terrific. Yeah.
that stuff like that. Please give Jeannie my best and give her a hug.
I sure will.
All right. Um, so I think that's it.
Okay.
All right. So, folks, that'll be it for tonight. Again, I want to thank Victor for taking the time. It's not easy to do these things at night, right? Victor puts in a full day, right? And then we ask him to come back at 7 o'clock at night, um, and sit around for an hour and a half talking to an old guy. So, but I think we saw a lot, we learned a lot, I learned a lot, and they're here for us. They're here for us. They truly, you don't ever want to receive their services, but they're here. And when I talk about committed people, it doesn't get much better than this.
You're right.
I've
You're right.
seen, I've seen guys, uh, young family, and the youngest child wants yoo-hoo or something, wants a chocolate drink. All right. So the escort takes off to go find the chocolate drink. They didn't have it in Emmitsburg at the King. He goes
Mhm.
to Gettysburg, and as luck would have it, they were out. He ends up going the other way. He was going for like 2.5 hours, but he came back with a 6 pack.
Yep.
Yoo-hoo. Let me
Yeah.
clarify that, because that's what the family needed.
That's
You know,
it.
I've seen people changing tires, and it's not just walking around in a fancy uniform. It's and the same thing. There's no one more protective and yet as polite as the honor guard, and no one plays the pipes like that band.
Oh yeah.
When you
Yeah.
put all the bands together, and that same guy has been the band leader for as long as I can remember.
Odie. Yeah. Odie's a great. Yeah. What a. He's the like the parody of a band leader. You know,
He is.
he's got it. It's
He's
so
got his
good.
thing, and so it's one for 4 days or more than 4 days for every the command team, but for that weekend, it's everybody all hands on deck for one purpose,
Yep.
and that's all because of these guys and all the rest and the scholarships and all the things that they do and the training they do and all that stuff. It's all because of these guys. So thank you for what you do.
Thanks. Thank you, Nick.
Appreciate it.
For sure.
All right, we'll so if you guys uh I'm talking to nobody, but if you check your Spotify. Jamie will have that out. And keep Maine in your mind, in your thoughts. You know, New England's a different place. Uh, there's a lot of people getting hurt all over the country, but us New England does kind of stick together. All right, Victor. Thank you very much.
Sure thing. Take care. Peace to you.
Thanks.
Sure thing.